The following is the story of a young transgender person who has undergone sex change surgery at 19 years old and had major complications. Viewer and listener discretion is advised. Here are some of the responses to the post. The link to the original post will be pinned in the comment section down below.
Hi, everyone. I'm a 19-year-old trans feminine person. I'm actually gender fluid as fuck, but for the sake of simplicity, we'll say I'm just a trans femme who had robotic PPT vaginoplasty with Dr. Shubham Gupta. The procedure lasted a good 4 to 5 hours, I believe, and everything was a complete success. Until the next day, when I suddenly felt a sharp pain. I lifted up my gown to discover my downstairs was covered in blood. I hit the call button, and suddenly there were dozens of people in my room describing the sheer amount of blood loss that had occurred. My memory is a bit fuzzy because I had a panic attack and nearly fainted from the terror of the situation. They had to rip out my packing and catheter on minimal pain meds and rush me into an emergency surgery while keeping my stuff under firm pressure to prevent further blood loss. I woke up gasping for air in the operating room. They told me the surgery was a success. I faintly remember being moved into the ICU for a day. Needless to say, it was all a traumatic haze. I just remember screaming in agony and begging them to sedate me. I cried for them to tell my boyfriend that I love him and to tell him everything would be okay. I felt so many things flash before my eyes. The next day, my BF visited me. I started sobbing instantly and nearly had a panic attack. He started shaking, and we both just had a difficult moment. The care team was amazing, however. They gave us each a ginger ale and some Jell-O, and we both were able to calm each other down. The hospital stay was such a disorienting time, but eventually I went home. My body is starting to bounce back a bit, but pain and discomfort still linger. My mental health is in such a bizarrely fragile state. I've experienced so much, and it's been messing with me. It's almost as if it's blended itself with my existing PTSD and created a new kind of grief. I'm going to make this abundantly clear. I don't regret my surgery. I would do it again 1,000,000 times if I had to. I'm just sort of grieving having a body and mind that doesn't know the pain of undergoing such an invasive surgery, and then later, an emergency surgery, because I developed a hematoma and lost over 15% of the blood in my body. I miss the innocent version of me who didn't know physical pain. I love my body, and I love what I've accomplished. I truly believe my results will improve over time. I just wish there was another way, but there isn't. I'm so incredibly grateful for modern medicine. I just wish I'd have been born with a vagina in the first place.
There is a lot of grief in transitioning. I also have PTSD and recently had stage 1 phalloplasty. The emotional aspect of this life has been a lot. Glad you're still with us.
Deeply appreciate this. It almost feels shameful to have so many negative feelings post-op, almost as if I'm ungrateful for the care I received or will be perceived as naive for undergoing the surgery in the first place. So many pre-op trans people would die for the chance to have this surgery as young as I am. It almost feels like I'm failing them by feeling how I do. I just can't wait for the day that I don't have to really think about things anymore. That my only concern will be dilating once a day and having it not be excruciatingly painful. No bleeding, no discharge, just smooth sailing. When that day happens, I'll have my peace.
Part of me feels like speaking on the mental and emotional toll will be misunderstood as regret when that is far from the case. I feel more grounded, more whole, and have access to more joy and a stronger sense of safety since stage 1 phalloplasty. I hate having to sleep with my catheter in. I have to do this for another 2 months. It's frustrating, but we both know it's worth it. Keep speaking on your experiences because our community doesn't do so enough.
I don't know about anyone else, but cheesy as it sounds, I'm genuinely a stronger person for the pain of recovery, for having seen a pint of blood gush from me onto my mattress, for having pushed myself through dilation despite a severe hematoma and blistering from catheterization around my vulva, screaming into a pillow, crying in agony as I forced this rod into me. I legitimately feel stronger for it. Not just because of the obviously higher pain threshold I now have, but just because of how I see myself now. I feel braver. I feel like I can handle more adversity because I remember vividly how it feels to be fully tested. Not exactly a direct response to your post, but just a relevant thought I'd had shortly after my operation. All that pain opened some doors for me. And yes, it was dreadful. I obviously wish I had been born with a vagina, so I wouldn't have had to endure it. But I would do it again, knowing what it's like, no question.
Bleeding like that is common after surgery, I think. 3 days after I had a hematoma in one of my labia, it burst while I was asleep. Ended up back in surgery twice and was given 4 units of blood across the day and even more in following days. It was one of the more stressful times of my life. It was so painful, and when I was awake I couldn't stop myself crying. I don't regret getting it. It was one of the better decisions of my life. If I had to do it again though, like for a second time, I don't know that I could.
I didn't realize how traumatizing this surgery was either. It's all so overwhelming when you wake up and the anesthetic wears off. Our community needs to talk more about how emotionally distressing it is at first, and how recovery really works. It really does get better, but our bodies have a lot of work to do to heal in those first few months. We experience a huge range of emotions all at once. Yes, it's great to be past a major milestone, and yes, dilating is scary and yucky. Also becomes easier. But post-surgical depression can be horrific and complications can add so much fear and worry. Hang in there. I'm glad you have someone special with you.
I've heard similar sentiments come up a lot among women who've just given birth. When there's a major complication, they rarely regret giving birth, but feel fragile, traumatized, disoriented, scared on an emotional level that they'll never heal, even though rationally, they believe they will. I think postpartum and vaginoplasty have a lot of overlap. Resources for women with postpartum complications might help you, and therapists well-versed in the one might likewise work well with you. Your feelings make sense, and I'm sorry this happened.
This is why I'm terrified to even go down the road of starting my bottom surgery LOL, because what if I don't make it out alive?
You'll definitely make it out alive. These are rare cases and non-fatal accounts. But also know that if you do have complications, look to the people who are still standing here today. The complications don't really matter. 10 years will pass, and it's all such a faded memory that it's just an interesting Reddit comment to talk about. Focus on now, what you need now, and the immediate next. Don't worry about the later. You have no say. You will show up as enough when challenges arise to meet them. And you will then move past those as the tiny glimpses of lived experience they truly are in the grand scheme of a full life. You got this. Be ready.
Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Please, don't forget to subscribe, share, and like to raise awareness and to help me out.